Hello, and welcome to NintenGems, the Nintendo podcast where we talk about some Nintendo news, what we've been playing in the Nintendo world, and of course, a classic Nintendo gem, thus the name NintenGems. This week, I have with me, again, a special guest, my brother, Connor. Hello over there.
Hello, Braydon and viewers.
How y'all doing out there? This is Braydon. Jake is quite busy. He's back to school. Connor and I are both out of school, and so we send him our best wishes on surviving his sophomore year. He will be back ASAP with his wonderful gaming knowledge. We miss you, Jake.
We miss you, Jake. Oh,
come home.
Cute.
But Connor's here to fill in for Jake this week, and we have a great show for you guys.
Big shoes.
Big shoes to fill, that's right.
We've got a super show, a Super Mario Brothers super show for you.
Whee! To kick off the show, as usual, should we jump right into the news?
We should.
It sounds like you might want to get us started here, Connor.
Yeah, totally. So the Tokyo Game Show just happened earlier this week, which is basically Japan's, in a very loose nutshell, it's basically Japan's take on E3. Like, E3 is more about the American side of the Western side of the industry, and Tokyo Game Show is obviously the Japanese side. So a lot of the bigger Japanese game publishing companies get together, have conferences, show off what they're working on, and there are a few Switch highlights coming from over there. On the Square side, they showed Dragon Quest XI, the new version that's coming out soon. Some info on Dragon Quest X Online, which is still going on. It started on the Wii U, but it's still going on the Switch, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah. They're
bringing some kind of cult classic RPGs as far as popular RPGs go, but Romancing Saga 3, a Star Ocean game, and Trials of Mana, which I think we've talked about on here before as well.
Yeah.
It was talked about on the Nintendo Direct last time too. It's like a full-fledged remake of a Japanese Super Nintendo game. Most importantly to us, they finally gave a release date and more information on the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles remastered version, which is coming out for several devices. Notably mobile, which is not necessarily what we're here to talk about, but it's coming out on Switch.
Yeah.
It's
mobile. I guess I didn't catch that bit. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's weird cult classic on the GameCube. It's not a real Final Fantasy game. Instead of turn-based, it's an action RPG, so it's all in all the combat is in real time. And on the GameCube, it had 4-player co-op where you would use the Game Boy Advance and connect it to the GameCube to...
What are those called? Just Game Boy Advance adapters?
Yeah, not link cables, I guess. I don't know.
But they would go into a controller slot and then hook into the top of your Game Boy Advance or Game Boy Advance SP with little brackets using the link cable slot, and then, you would control your character with the Game Boys.
Right, and you would use, on the Game Boy Advance screen would have, a map or something, or just, extra information that you could see while all of your characters are, running around on, the TV screen, which was super cool for the time. A crazy cool idea. Yeah. But, I mean, I guess it's a weirdly, for how, obtuse it was to play multiplayer, it's, very fondly remembered by most people, and it's getting a re-release on Switch in January, which I'm so excited about. Super nostalgic game for me.
Yes.
And
we played
you as
so much of that. What does remaster mean these days? Because they're calling this a Crystal Chronicles remaster, and sure, it's being upgraded. They obviously had to make adjustments to the very basic coding to remaster this for the Switch and other consoles. But the graphics, are basically what I remember from the GameCube. Maybe they're a little bit better.
They're almost the exact same.
I would like to see a side-by-side. But what does remaster mean these days? You kind of mentioned that with Trials of Mana.
Right. Well, I don't want to get too nitpicky and splitting hairs with it, but I mean there's remakes and there's remasters. The Trials of Mana, it was a Super Nintendo game. It was a 2D game on the Super from 20 years ago, and it's being remade in full 3D with voice acting and revamped combat, and that's a remake. And the Final Fantasy VII remake that's coming out in God knows when. But I think a remaster is just kind of using the same assets not remaking character models or like textures or anything, but like just kind of
not even textures. Like that's basically
but like getting
exactly what I imagine remastering being.
But like better resolution. Like I mean, like
yeah,
am I making sense? And
I feel
and they're adding like different changes, like they're adding like the character
the frame
voices.
rate will probably be better. Yeah, like
oh yeah,
I get it.
I mean, hopefully it'll be 60. You know, it's like it's a difference between like building a new game from the ground up and like just kind of it's a weird gradient from like beginning stage being port to remaster to remake. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Sure.
It's like a gradient kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
An annoying conversation.
We can move on. I didn't mean to grill you there, but what else from the Tokyo Game Show? That is what it's called, right?
Correct. Yeah, like TGS for short. There were not even just rumors, but articles that Capcom had some big announcement to make at Tokyo Game Show related to the Switch, like some big Switch title dropping. I don't think I heard anything about that, like following up. And I think the conference is over.
So was it more for third party? Like, did Nintendo have a booth or anything?
No. It's all like third party developers. Nintendo, I guess their main thing is the direct, like around E3 time is like when they do all their things. Like Sega had like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games 2020. Like there were some Switch titles that we already know are coming out, but no like surprises, I guess.
Gotcha.
Japan. We love them.
Little weirdos over there, but we love them. Thanks for giving us great games. Any other news from your end of the notes section?
Yeah, we can keep going with the Japanese motif. Dragon Quest 1 through 3 have just recently been... See, I would say these are remasters. They've been ported, they've been brought to the Nintendo Switch eShop as downloadable titles, which is great. It's great that people can play these really, really classic, foundational Japanese RPGs, like video games from 2-3 decades ago, you know. However, they muddled up the visuals a little bit. Huh. They do this thing.
Okay.
I don't want to bring the conversation back. The map script, like the maps, like the land is in 16-bit. Yeah, the overworld. And then the character sprites, the character graphics are like in like this hand-drawn kind of thing. And in like the battle screen where it shows like the monster, it's also like hand-drawn. It looks ugly, which is sad because they deserve better. Like people should play these games before they die. But it's hard to say it would be the most optimal way. We had Dragon Warrior 2 and 3. I think it was like a little collection for the Game Boy Color back in the day. Yeah.
I learned so much about RPGs from that Game Boy Color game.
Yeah.
It was really fundamental to my understanding I had that game when I was probably 5 or 6. And I don't think I ever got like another party member or anything like that. I don't know.
Right.
I never got very far. But it taught
me
the way you
play when you're
turn-based combat.
Right, totally.
So, really interesting. I think I would be interested in picking them up. I'll have to see if I can tolerate those graphics you're talking about, though.
Yeah, I mean, like they like on the Nintendo on the Switch eShop, they have like the screenshots and stuff of the game, and it looks just wonky. It's weird. I don't know. Check it out if you'd like. It probably doesn't deserve this much conversation, but what's next?
Good contributions, Connor. We appreciate that very much.
Thanks, Pop.
Because I did not pay attention to the Tokyo Game Show.
It's all good. That's why I'm here, to be the resident weeb of the show.
Especially when Jake's out. Jake probably would have been a little bit more keen to it than I would.
That's true.
But yeah, thank you. But continuing on with the news, a reminder, Link's Awakening and the Switch Lite both drop this Friday. That would be Friday the 20th of September. It's going to be a big day.
Yeah.
If you have not picked up a Switch yet, a Switch Lite is a great excuse to do it. I work at Target, actually, in the electronics department, and we had our first shipment the other day, and they are so cool. The boxes are very tiny, which actually made them look appealing to me, and the yellow one stood out. I don't know.
I like the color schemes.
Yeah, I think they're really cool.
Does it come with a pack-in game of any kind?
No, it was purely just the systems.
Okay.
And just a reminder that they are not dockable. They are portable only. Not even the Joy-Con are removable. They're just built into the controller. Or, pardon me, built into the console. But I play my Switch portably probably 95% of the time, so I am very much in the target audience. So consider it if you think that's something.
Right.
If it's the kind of Switch for you.
Yeah, I think it's super cool. Like, it's a great idea that they're doing. I play mine probably more on console, like on the TV than portably. So it's not necessarily for me, but I think it's a great idea for people that prioritize portability over other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Another game that came out recently, it came out on the 13th, Friday the 13th, might I add, is Ellen, a game by Red Mount Media. It's a little indie game. Right now, it's on sale. It's 10% off. It's like $7.10 or something like that. But I've been looking forward to this game. It was released on Steam earlier, gosh, I think it might have been 2018, but they just released it on all consoles, and it's a pixel horror game. The graphics remind me a whole lot of Super Brothers, like Sword and Sorcery. If you've ever played like that kind of gorgeous pixel art, very detailed, but at the same time still just little pixels, which is amazing that people can do that. And similar, it gives me kind of escape room vibes. I've only just started it, and so I want to finish it before I give a detailed review. But I might cover it once we hit October, get into that spoopy review season. But yeah, so beyond games that are just coming out soon or recently released, our next piece of news comes from actually the Tokyo Game Show again. And this is just a quote from Sakurai, the developer of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's very sweet, and I'm gonna read it and we can discuss it. The quote is as follows. I'm sorry for bringing up this personal story at a time like this, but making Smash Bros. On the Switch was the last mission the late Satoru Iwata gave to me. I've put my all into the game, and with more DLC, I will continue to work hard. And all the headlines have really kind of like latched onto the last mission that Iwata gave to him, and that he, obviously really took that to heart. I mean, this game is a masterpiece in so many ways, and so I think it's cool that he shared that piece of insight, between the two. And for those not in the know, Iwata was a creator of so many characters.
He's one of the most prolific programmers, designers, developers at Nintendo, and was the president of Nintendo in Japan at the time of his death.
Yeah, and he died, was it in 2018?
Oh, no, it was like 2015, I believe.
Oh, gosh.
It was a little bit ago, but it was... Nintendo Directs were also his idea, so he was very engaged with like the fan community and stuff. So for him to, with all like his prolificity, perhaps, and all the weight he has in Nintendo and in the industry, that's a big burden to place on Sakurai's shoulders, but I think he did him good.
Yeah, absolutely. And as he says, with the DLC, and he's continuing to work hard, like he's really doing right.
Yeah, to think Nintendo would be like the home of like pretty much video games' biggest crossover is pretty insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I just thought that was a cute little story, but moving on from that, we have a whole lot of Pokemon news, actually. It just seems like, obviously, as we're getting closer to Sword and Shield, they're just gonna keep on getting us hype and hype and hype. But first, they added the Unova region Pokemon to Pokemon Go. I have not caught any yet. I haven't even really turned on Pokemon Go. It's been a week or two. I do play it semi-regularly, but I have not encountered any Unova Pokemon.
For those of you out there that are still playing Pokemon Go, there is help for you. People love you.
Oh, no.
And they're... I missed it, though. Did they add the Hoenn and the Sinnoh regions at some point? Or the third and fourth generations, right? I get them confused now.
Right. No, man, me too. But they are several generations deep.
Okay.
I kind of wonder if they're not jumping around a little bit, but I am very ill-informed on Pokemon Go, and if you're listening, please do inform us. We will be glad to take your education. Yeah, so adding a whole, region of Pokemon to Pokemon Go is obviously pretty big news, but I do think Sword and Shield is still kind of what everyone's looking for right now. And a big piece of information they dropped is the fact that there's going to be no Elite Four in Pokemon Sword and Shield for the first time. They are going to be implementing a tournament-style finale where you have to battle your way to the champion, and then you have your shot at, becoming the Pokemon champion. And you will still have to collect all 8 badges along the way to qualify for this tournament, but I think it's interesting that they're doing away with the Elite Four. It's a mechanic that's been around for over 20 years now.
So for Sun and Moon, they got rid of the gym leaders, right? Wasn't that different?
They had a sort of a leader of the island system. I would still almost call them gym leaders. I think they were called the Kahunas, if I'm not mistaken.
Regardless, I mean, like, I think them shaking up the typical structure and formula for Pokemon is like a net positive. I think that's always been people's biggest criticism for the series, is just like how much it relies on its own tropes and patterns,
Yeah, so they don't have gyms exactly. They have trials, which each island has their own trial, and so that's kind of the system that they replaced the traditional gym leaders with in Sun and Moon. So yeah, it's like you're saying, they've been tweaking it, and I think it'll be fun to see what they can do with it. And I've seen a lot of discussion is just names of the people battling in this tournament. It's a great opportunity for them to like drop in little Easter eggs, just little character cameos, maybe from the anime, maybe from past Pokemon games, just flashing their names up on the
there's a lot of potential there for sure.
Would be pretty neat.
I would hope they would take it in a fun, cool direction, but I'm not so sure. Just the way Pokemon kind of handles its own stuff recently. I don't know. I don't want to be too negative about it. I am excited for Sword and Shield.
It's true. Well, and a lot of the Pokemon finales get a little over dramatic. I don't know, drawn out. I hope the tournament's cool though. I hope it's fun. I'm thinking of Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door, right? I don't know, whatever.
All right, cool.
I don't want to go there.
That's fun.
They also announced a new Pokemon Surfetched, which I think is just a Galarian form of Farfetch'd, but they are changing his name, which is a little unusual too.
It's a Galarian evolution, I believe. Like Farfetch'd.
Or is it a whole new
Farfetch'd
Pokemon?
Evolves into Surfetch'd.
Is that right?
Galarian. It's kind of like, I think it was the Zigzagoon evolution is only one of those in the Galar region. I forget. But yeah, I believe it's just an evolution of Farfetch'd that's only available in the region. I love the design. I think it's cool as crap.
His sword and shield, like, it's super cool.
The whole, like, European-centric design philosophy they have with, like, all the Pokemon, like, the teapot ghosts and, like, all, like, the sword and shield and, like, kind of knight motifs and, like, the smokestack coughing are... I love... It's a little... I'm not sure if it's, like, offensive to run with, like, the stereotypes like that, but I think it's really cute.
For those...
You can ask Hannah.
Uninformed, my wife is English, but I think she'll think a lot of it's pretty cool and, like, enjoy the spotlight on her home country. I did just confirm your information that Surfetch'd is a evolution of Farfetch'd. It is true. He is an evolution, and so that's fun. People have been looking for an evolution for him for a long time, too, so glad he's finally landing one.
Yeah, it's true. He's one of, like, the only Generation 1 Pokemon that I think still doesn't have, like, some kind of added evolution nowadays. Anywho, what's next?
A strange bit of Nintendo news, and I'm very curious about your opinion on this. We have a new piece of technology called the Ring-Con coming to the Switch. It comes with a game called Ring Fit Adventure, and... We can go into it a little bit further, but short and sweet, it gives me Wii Fit vibes.
Totally. I think Ring Fit Adventure. I think that's what it's trying to go for.
So what it is it's a round, I don't know, it's wider than a basketball, if what I'm seeing is correct.
I call it a hula hoop. when I first saw it, I thought it was something that you like put around your waist.
I would have a hard time getting it around my waist. You know what I mean? As a hula, but you are correct. It's like almost that big, and like it is circular. It is a ring, and one of your Joy-Con goes into a holster on that ring, and another Joy-Con goes into a leg band that is then strapped to your thigh. And this is so weird.
It's goofy. This is like weirder than Nintendo Labo.
And I don't know if it's
like
quite as innovative as Wii Fit was. Like, it kind of seems like a weird attempt to grab that again, because a lot of people did buy the Wii for Wii Fit. Like, they use that as a workout regimen.
Right.
And so, like, they're trying to grab that audience again with Ring Fit Adventure, with this weird circle you're going to be holding in your hands. And, like, it's rubbery, and so you're going to be, like, bouncing it back and forth in your hands.
Right. It's like bendy. You, like, squeeze it, kind of, sometimes. It's this weird disconnect for this one, I feel like, because Wii Fit was, like, Wii Fit. Like, it was like, this is kind of a game, but it's mostly for like fitness reasons. Like, it came with the balance board, which was like a controller, but it was obvious like what it did. Like, this looks like it's stuck between trying to be like a fitness centric thing and like an actual video game, because it's Ring Fit Adventure. Like, it's like an adventure game. Like, it like has a story.
Yeah, well, and all the attacks are different exercises. So, like, you can either use your arms, leg, core, or something else to use they're basically different elements. And so the enemies, like, are weak to leg workouts. Or they're weak to push-ups. Yes. Yeah,
Same.
That's a good point.
Aren't we all?
So they're trying to make a game out of it, and as you level up, you get new workouts, new quote-unquote attacks. And so, I don't know. I don't think I'm very interested in this. What about you?
Yeah, I'll watch it. I didn't fall into... I was curious about Labo, and I was curious... I don't think it was for me either, but I was curious to see if other people liked it, just because this was such an interesting idea, and I liked the idea. It's kind of the same for this one. I think it's super goofy, and I think it's almost a little misguided in some aspects, but I am definitely curious to see and kind of hoping and expecting that it might be good, because it's like Nintendo developed and published.
Maybe they'll have some cool things to do with the technology, with the ring itself,
I don't know.
And this leg band beyond just this fitness game.
It's also worth noting, I think they announced this kind of under the radar after E3, right?
Just recently.
Which is just kind of interesting to wonder why.
They might have been laughed at there that when all eyes were on the video game industry. They may have been laughed at if they'd unveiled that during the Direct, during E3.
Well, I mean, in E3's past, they're kind of used to that kind of thing. I feel like it would have been unsurprising for Nintendo, but I guess it was a smart move overall.
Yeah, we'll keep our eyes out for more Ring Fit Adventure news, and see if we get persuaded along the way. Well, last on my news list is just kind of a rumor. I don't know, don't take it too seriously, because companies file patents all the time. But just recently here, Nintendo filed a patent for a Joy-Con that bends at the thumb. Basically, where your thumb rests, there at the top of the Joy-Con, there's a joint that just kind of folds forward. I don't know, just speculation on what kind of controller they could be coming up with next.
I love that idea, because you probably more so than me, because you play portable so much, but like the Joy-Con, like the way the Switch is, like the Joy-Con are so flat that my fingers do kind of get like cramped up if I play for too long.
Especially Smash, just such rapid, small movements. My hands do get cramped.
Oh yeah. And I use like a wired controller when I play on the TV, so it's a lot more comfortable. But I would be curious to see how if it curves, if it bends, it will fit on the side of a Switch.
Ooh, that's a good thought.
Because they just kind of slide on straight. But I am definitely excited if it's a real thing.
And like I said, don't get too excited, because companies do put in for patents all the time for just things they're even toying with the idea of, just so other companies don't steal them.
Right.
So, we may never see those on the shelves ever, but still interesting nonetheless.
You know, Microsoft is
That's
on the cutting edge. Microsoft was about to release their own line of bending Joy-Cons
yeah.
for Xbox One, the Xbox Two.
Xbox Con.
Yeah.
But moving on. So that's all I have for the news. Do you have anything else to share with us, Connor?
That's pretty much all she wrote on my end.
Good deal. Well, we will now move into our segment where we discuss recent games, kind of what we've been playing. And Connor, you were here last week when we discussed Astral Chain. Have you been playing that anymore?
Yes, I've played a few more chapters. I'm so sorry, viewers, listeners, readers like you. I haven't beaten it. I feel like I'm still a ways from beating it. I just haven't had too much time. And here's a weird anecdote just like about games like this, because this is another weird parallel that it has like with the Wonderful 101, the other Platinum developed game that I think it's very much like. The game is like chapter based, and like a segment of story begins and ends clearly in like a chapter. It's hard to like pick up and play. It's hard to be like, all right, I have like an hour right now. I'm going to dedicate it exactly this hour and like find a starting and stopping point and like pick it up and put it down. And especially with the way the game is structured, like each chapter is like the part that you want to play. The game, all of the game is great, but the part that you want to play is like the meaty, visceral, super fun combat, right? But you don't really get to that until like over halfway in a chapter, because you start with like the police investigation stuff and like exploration, which is also fine, but it's just like it's hard to like, it's hard to it's like I get this weird like depression. It's like I don't know if I feel like playing it. I don't want to play through that part. I don't know. It keeps getting better. I'm excited to see where it goes. I love the combat. It's so good. The story's getting more interesting. Like having a large variety of things to do and like so like deep combat systems is like Platinum Games like specialty. So the combat, I mean, like each chapter so far, I'm like unlocking a new kind of Legion, which are like the different weapons. So I just got one that I have like a sword one that is like arrows for like ranged attacks, and one I just got one that's like arms, so that you can like just like punch enemies, and like you can put it on as like this Legion on as like a suit of armor and like wear it and like cool. Float around with it, which is super cool. And it's also like it's so cool and so satisfying. And it's also getting deeper. Like each Legion has like its own like skill tree, so you like can upgrade their abilities and like unlock new attacks and moves and abilities and stuff for them. Like it's super deep, but that's almost like it's just like you have to I have to like get in a mindset to play it, It's almost like it's like playing like a real-time strategy game. Like it's that kind of like depth and like
amount of brain power,
splitting hairs kind of, as like, okay, I need to like, or min-maxing, that's the term I'm looking for. Like it's like, okay, I need to like spend my points on this ability and like upgrade these skills for this particular Legion, because I'll probably use him for the next mission. So you need to like, there's like this pattern of upgrading all of your things and like assigning your skills before a mission, going on the mission and doing like the whole police investigation part, which is cool but slow paced, and then you get to the combat. That's like the best part.
That makes sense.
So 10 out of 10. Definitely pick it up. Super great.
You got to schedule it into your day.
The highs are super high. I mean, there's been no lows for me. It's just like a matter of like the kind of game that it is and like investing in it correctly.
Well, that's cool. We can revisit that.
But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'll probably keep
that's exactly what I was going to say.
When
whenever you finish it, we'll definitely revisit it and see what the overall lasting impression will be with you.
So I'm always playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate online. Like we mentioned in the last episode, all those Mii costumes came out, and I love the Goemon series. And so I've been playing as the Mii sword fighter with the Goemon costume, and I'm trying to get into Elite Smash to like elite status, and I'm really close.
Have you ever played as a Mii before? I mean, I'm sure you've played as him, but
not really. Not like dedicated. But he's really fun. It's fun to play as Goemon in Smash. I don't know. It's
Are
a
you a
weird thing.
convincing representation?
Oh yeah, totally. It's pretty great. Yeah, so I'm always playing Super Smash Bros. Online, just like whenever I have a free time, like a free few minutes. But what the main popcorn game I've kind of been like snacking on this past week or two has been Wario's Woods on the little collection of
Yeah.
NES games that you have with Nintendo Switch Online. Wario's Woods, it's one of my favorite puzzle games. I'll say it.
And how much time have you
I'll
sunk into
say
that
it.
versus
Sue me.
Astral Chain?
Probably more. Well, probably more, including the amount of times that I like would like create like a suspend point or like rewind the game to fix a mistake. Probably like at least
Dang. Okay.
like 50% more. But it's really good. It's super unique. It's for one thing, interesting fact, it is the last Nintendo licensed NES game to
Wow.
be released,
Okay.
period. Super late game. I think it was like early 90s, I think it was like 93 even. I should double check on that release date. But yeah, one of the last officially licensed NES game. It has a Super Nintendo port, but the gameplay is really unique because it's your typical falling block puzzle game, but you don't control the blocks. You don't like choose where the blocks go directly. You play as Toad, who like runs around on the blocks, and you have to like pick up and place the different blocks, which are actually like little colored monsters and bombs. And you have to like line up the particular colors of like monsters to get rid of them and put a bomb on them of the same color, and it clears the line. It's just really cute and endearing and like unique and fun, and I love it. And it's got a really good single player mode with like boss fights, which is weird, but I don't know. It's been my comfort food game.
How do the boss fights play?
The boss itself is like a bigger monster that just like takes up space in like the play field, I guess, and it'll like move around, and you have to just create like a line of bombs or like a matching colored line like against it to cause damage to it. It's weird. It's funny. I don't know. It's just so unique. I love it. And I mean, especially if you just like have the NES library with Switch Online already, no reason not to give it a shot. So that's pretty much all I've been playing for the past week, 2 weeks since the last recording of the episode. Been keeping busy, and I hope to specifically get more Astral Chain in when I can, but I'm probably gonna be playing more Zelda in the time being.
Bring on Link's Awakening. I am very excited. But I've been playing a few games myself, which I will jump into if you don't mind. I would like to add on to your Super Smash Bros. Segment. I've been playing a little bit.
For sure.
And I've been playing as Sans myself. I got the Megalovania soundtrack, and that's kind of what I want to gush about right now. So, like, I do understand that I'm old, and I'm behind on the times, and Undertale has been out for like a year now. And, like, therefore, Sans' theme, Megalovania, it's not, like, cool anymore. I know it's a meme, and, like, everybody knew about it. But, dude, the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Remix of Megalovania is so good.
It's beautiful.
Yes, it's super hype. It gives me, like,
so
Dragon
hype.
Force vibes. Like, do you remember Guitar Hero 3, like, Through the Fire and the Flames? Like, it shreds.
Like the band Dragon Force.
I don't know, the shredding guitar mixed with, like, the video game noises, kind of. And there's, like, this transitional part that's towards the end of the song where everything but the violins, I think you'd call them, cut out, and they're playing like a slightly modified version of that, and like it gives me goosebumps, and then it rips into the guitar solo, and it's awesome.
I mean, it's no surprise that it's because it was composed by Toby Fox, like Toby Fox is the composer, yeah.
Oh yes, he is. Do you know him from other games?
He kind of. He has some other projects, not completely game related. If you've heard of Homestuck, which is like kind of like a underground internet phenomenon, but nothing you need to get too deep into.
But yeah, and Toby Fox is the primary composer for Little Town Hero, which as Jake was mentioning last week. I gave Undertale kind of like a thumbs down, but the music is like nothing to scoff at, you know. 75 cents for the Sans costume is cool, but just for the song to fight to is enough. Like, yeah, 75 cents for this track on Super Smash Bros. Worth it.
For sure. Big thumbs up, agree.
The other game that I actually wrapped up this week was The World Ends With You Final Remix. Jake and I talked about that a couple weeks ago as well. Were you weren't there for that one?
No, I was not.
Yeah, we covered it a little bit a few weeks ago, and I kind of wrapped it into the gym as well. But I've pretty much beaten it at this point, so if you haven't gotten it by now, I just want to let you know I might be going into some spoiler territory. Definitely still get it, because it's a phenomenal game, but just fair warning. Are you ready for me to, like, rant about this game for a little bit?
Yeah, go for it. I guess.
Well,
I don't have a choice.
Okay, yes,
I am
you
your
are
prisoner.
my prisoner. The game was just as good as I remembered, and by the end, my finger felt like almost as good as the stylus. I was complaining about that. I couldn't really manage to get the Joy-Con controls to work with me how I wanted, so I played the game like 99% of the game on the touchscreen, which I highly recommend. It feels a whole lot like the DS. The music is very...
That's how it was supposed to be made, like played too, right?
Oh yeah, very much so. It's because it was ported to the mobile devices, as we discussed. It's very much touch-based, so the Joy-Con controls, I don't know, they felt a little tacked on to me. But the music, which is a super highlight of the game, I've fully experienced it this time around. This final remix version, as the name might suggest, has a bunch of remixes to a lot of the tracks. There are now 92 full-length tracks in the games. They're all remastered, which the graphics were remastered as well. And the new additions to the game in this final remix, besides the music, there were some new pins, which are the game's weapon attack system. And by pins, I mean like basically pins that you put on your shirt. But there are some new pins. There are a few new enemies and battle conditions, which make the battles and encounters more difficult. But the most important addition is a new chapter called A New Day. This new chapter, it expands upon the main story they were telling, which I'm super excited the fact that they did. The post-game content does a really good job of clearing up any questions you have about the world that they set up, the afterlife, like this game that they've set up for the afterlife. But this new chapter, this new day, it opens up a whole new set of questions, which is kind of annoying because like I said, the post-game content, like, I don't know, it's amazing how willing they were to flesh out this afterlife system that they came up with. They could have left it alone and just had questions, but...
It sounds cool. I mean, I definitely want to like play it and give it a shot someday, for sure. It sounds... I mean, everything that you've always said about it, and I've just always heard good things. Like, people want Neku in for Super Smash Bros.
It would be interesting. I don't know. He's not exactly he's not a super awesome character. He is great in the cast of characters that make up the game, if that makes sense. He's a great addition. Like, I just don't know if he's like quite iconic enough yet, but they so heavily hinted at a sequel, which I would love. I actually Googled The World Ends With You sequel. And the first article was on Nintendo's website. And this article, it's actually developer notes from, like, the creative producer, the director, and the music composer of this final remix game, right? Which, yes. And so, the creative director said that this final remix will be his last attempt at, like, working his way towards a sequel. I have no idea how well the game sold, this final remix. I really, really hope that what he saw from the reception of this final remix game will be enough to drive a sequel, because, like I said, they opened up so many... They killed a main character in this new chapter that they added in final remix. They killed a main character.
Oh.
And, like, introduced this brand new character in visions that Neku had. Okay. And so, like, we need a sequel, you know? We need a sequel. That's all there is to it.
Sure. It'll give me more reason to play the first. I'm down.
Yeah, exactly. I
can't believe it's been like, what, at least 10 years since it originally released?
It was 11 years when Final Remix first dropped. It's 12 years now. Final Remix has been out for about a year. But yeah, you're right.
Wow. That's crazy.
So, if what I've talked about interests you at all, please go pick it up so that a sequel might happen. I have a theory. I don't know. There's like this ending art piece when the chapter closes of this girl who kind of has like, she's wearing like pieces of clothing from each character and like represents some sort of amalgamation, it seems like, of all the main characters from the first game. But we have no idea who she is. So fingers crossed that cliffhanger will be bridged one day.
Do you want to do like a rating system? If you have to give it like a rating or like a final like recommendation, what would you say to those that are interested? Because I mean it's hard to describe. To call it just a JRPG is doing it a disservice, right?
Yeah, that would be a disservice. It is incredibly story driven, with the combat almost being supplementary but also being just as fulfilling as the rest of the game. It's just so it's in a category of its own, and this final remix does feel like a awesomely complete version of, it's everything I could have asked for from the DS version, plus more that I didn't know I wanted. That's kind of been my week in gaming. Anything else on your end?
I'm over here. I just stumbled upon the list of Nintendo just made a post on Facebook. They said we now have 60 classic games across the NES and the Super Nintendo libraries on the Switch Online service. And I was looking at the list, and I forgot to mention a couple that I have like tooled around with a little bit in the last little bit. Yeah, with the Super Nintendo ones, they're all Super Nintendo games. There's a few weird additions. They're all classics, but they're all games that came out in America, in the US, on the Super Nintendo, which is known as the Super Famicom in Japan. But there is one Super Famicom game on the list, and it's Puyo Puyo 2. As I'm not as much of like a puzzle game freak as like this episode's probably making me out to be, but like Puyo Puyo is my favorite puzzle game. I love it so much, and 2 is like the best one. And it's weird. It's just odd that they put it on there to me, because it is very popular, but the game is completely in Japanese. Like there's no English in there, and it's just interesting that Nintendo would do that kind of thing globally.
They don't warn you at all either. Like, they're just, it seems like they should say, this game is in Japanese, good luck.
No.
Or,
no, not at all.
But you have to work it out.
Right. And on the screen with all the games where you select like a Super Nintendo game, it's like, they're all horizontal rectangles, except for the one Puyo Puyo 2, which is like this vertical oblong other rectangle. It's just an eyesore, and it's goofy. And I don't know. It's just a weird choice, but I love that they did it. The next thing is, I just wanted to defend the honor publicly of Vice Project Doom, which was one of the most recent NES game they added to the library that y'all made fun of. It's, pardon my French, it's badass. It's so good. It's an awesome game.
Maybe I don't know what it is.
I'll be honest, I didn't either. I thought it was like, it looks like it's pretty generic, but it's really cool. It starts with like a driving section, like this like overhead top down. It basically plays like a shooter, like you're driving a car like down a huge highway, and you're like shooting at other vehicles that like fly at you from the top of the screen. And then after that level, it shifts to a side-scrolling like platformer. You play as like a dude, and you like swing like this like laser sword at bad guys, and it's super cool. And then there's like first-person shooter, like rail shooter section, where you're like first person and like pointing at
weird
like bad guys to shoot like an arcade game, like an arcade shooter. It's awesome. It's so cool, and the visuals are like really good for an NES.
Okay,
game. So I don't know. Just throwing it out there. It's pretty dope, and I didn't expect it at all.
That honor might be like halfway defended there. I think you might have done well. I'll give it a shot. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Give it a shot if any of that sounds appealing, folks. If you can stomach retro games like that, which is a pretty good transition to the next section.
Yeah, it is. Our drumroll, please. NintenGem of the week. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Connor, would you like to announce to the crowd what we brought for them this week?
I would love to announce to the crowd what we brought for them this week. This week's NintenGem is Star Fox for the Super Nintendo, also known as Starwing in Europe, which is interesting. I actually didn't know that before today. It was released pretty pretty much worldwide within like a few month time span in 1993 for the Super Nintendo. So it was like about halfway through the Super Nintendo's life.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about with this game. It's a classic. It's a paragon of like Nintendo working with their own hardware and pushing it to its limits. And it's also a really, really, really weird and frustrating game to play, kind of, in a way.
And the first of a Nintendo series that has been through a lot through the years.
Right, totally. I guess that's the biggest thing, and also the one I missed the most. It spawned a successful and prolific Nintendo first party series, the Star Fox series of games, which people love, people cherish. There are several Star Fox characters and stages in Super Smash Bros. It has like a very prolific legacy associated with it, and this is where it all started. As I said, it was like a midlife Super Nintendo game. The Super Nintendo, so it had like these different chips in the console. I guess you'd call them like co-processors or something. But there's the two big ones, the two ones that are like really famous are Mode 7 and the Super FX chip. Mode 7 allowing like graphics and sprites to be like bent and warped and like moved around in ways that don't necessarily like bend to the resolution of the console, and the Super FX chip allowing like a pseudo 3D rendering on the Super Nintendo, which is a 16-bit console. It's not made for 3D. It's like 2D games through and through. And this was a few years prior to the Nintendo 64, which was a 3D console, and I think the PlayStation 1 was even still a little bit away. So the kind of 3D that Star Fox achieves on a console in this 1993 with the Super FX chip is pretty insane. The kind of fully polygonal 3D thing, like games were doing it by now, but they were more on like computers, like home computers and PCs and stuff, like Doom and Wolfenstein. But yeah, this is as far as like what the idea of the game, it's a flying shooter. It's you pilot an R-wing, which is basically just a spaceship. It's from a third person's perspective, and you just kind of, from behind the back of your ship, you control your ship and you move forward and you shoot things that are flying at you from the back of the screen, like, which is hard to describe, oddly enough, for like, because it's like a 3D game.
But there were games in that style before it.
Totally, right. I mean, if you've played like any sort of like, or seen any sort of like flying sim or space combat games, like it's the same.
I'm even
kind
thinking
of,
isn't it like Contra or 3D World Runner almost? You know, I feel like there were games that moved you forward in a similar way, but not quite in like the 3D smooth motion.
Yeah, those games definitely both used like perspective and like depth to create like a 3D effect, but I'd say not in the same way that Star Fox does, just because I don't know.
No, I think
everything
agree.
Is, I don't, it's so weird to describe because it's all polygonal. Like it fully guns for a fully polygonal like 3D polygons look, and not just like flat sprites on a screen like other 16-bit games of the era, which is crazy. Like this is Nintendo working at like their peak with like the hardware that they have, like the hardware that they design.
It's basically 3D illusion, isn't it?
Yeah, all of the R-Wing's positions, all of its effects, every like position it can assume, everything it can do is a sprite. Like you can rip a sprite sheet for this game, like they're basically pre-rendered. It's like rendering pre-rendered 3D on the fly on a Super Nintendo. It's wacky. I don't know. It's the main game design was led by famed Nintendo designer Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario and Zelda and Donkey Kong, the visionary to end all video game visionaries. He had like this fascination with space operas, and he wanted to create a story that like captured that same kind of feel, but was also like family friendly and for kids. And so he made all the characters animals, hence Star Fox. You play as kind of the titular Fox. Fox McCloud is the pilot that you play as, and you are piloting a spaceship, and you're part of the Star Fox team, and you pilot your ship through levels and shoot down enemy ships and robots. And what's really cool is that the other members of your team are also pilots, and they're also flying around the stage with you,
and assisting you, and they need your help from time to time,
which is crazy. Like on top of all the 3D, like they'll call little dialogue boxes pop up at the bottom of the screen while you're playing, and they'll be like, "Oh, I need help. Shoot down this guy that's behind me," and they'll fly across the screen, and like there'll be an enemy behind them, and you can shoot them down, and they'll be like, "Thanks, Fox." They can also be defeated. They can run out of health and be out of commission for the rest of the mission. There's a lot going on. It's really crazy that they pulled this off.
The game is kind of broken up into 3 paths that you can take, which then have between like 3 and 5 levels maybe each. But the goal is to reach the planet Venom, where the enemy base is located. I believe you're trying to make like a final attack on the planet Venom.
Right, and defeat the evil leader Andross, the antagonist of the series.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, each path, like, it gets you to the same place, but they're just basically different levels for you to play through, correct?
That's correct. I think they might vary intentionally on, like, difficulty. Like, there's, like, an easier to access path, and there's one that has, like, blatantly harder levels. Like, if you want to challenge, it's almost like a difficulty setting built in. But it's definitely just overall to encourage like playing through it multiple times, because just playing through like the set of 5 levels, like a set of 5 levels, doesn't take too much more than like an hour.
Right. If you don't die, I made it to the last level on like 2 of the different 3 paths, and I haven't, but I never made it to Venom. I kept on dying.
If you're an ace pilot,
like Star Fox,
it's such a cool concept. Like the fact that there's branching, let alone all the 3D graphics, all that aside. The level design is really great. I mean, one of the elephants in the room, I'd say, for this game and this conversation is the fact that the game received a sequel on the Nintendo 64, which is kind of like, it was kind of like a successor, not necessarily direct sequel, but the Nintendo 64 version of the game, Star Fox 64, is a lot more popular and well known, and is kind of like the best in the series. But I'd say that this one is directly comparable in like level design and like game quality, and it's kind of slept on. It's almost like a hidden gem, almost.
I would agree with that. I want to go back though to how you were talking about how he's inspired by space operas, just because a lot of the special effects that they seem to employ throughout the game very, very much give me like Star Wars inspired vibes, like the light speed lines, you know what I mean? They're rainbow instead of just white, like on Star Wars, which is super cool.
It's so
but
cool.
It utilizes like those sweet light speed lines, and then there's no air in space, but there's like, it's cool because there's whooshing sounds, like when you go like through tight spaces.
Stars. There's like it's like a star field.
Yeah, but I just mean like when you're like,
I mean, like you like see like the stars like flying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm saying like when you go close to like columns, or like you're flying through a tight space and you like barely dodge something, there it goes like whoosh, like there's whooshing sounds, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many small little features, and some of the larger enemies that like you're gonna fly up against, like you can destroy them in different ways. If you destroy one leg, they're gonna fall that way, whereas I don't know, if this were like on the NES, they would just blow up in an explosion, but they actually fall down kind of depending on where you hit them.
Yeah,
it's a very cared for game.
I mean, yeah, it's so high concept yet so like detail oriented in its execution, which is, I mean, that's just classic Nintendo, you know. Nintendo
we talked about this when we covered The Legend of Zelda for the NES, but I would love to get my hands on a copy of the instruction manual for this game, because I'm sure it has so much context as to what's happening in the game.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't prepare myself before recording this and, like, you know, find a PDF or something. But I would love to find a copy of the instruction booklet for some context.
Something that is interesting about this game, I'm holding the cartridge right now, and on the cover art for the cartridge, and I think on the box, it's got this weird... So Fox McCloud is like an anthropomorphic fox. He's just like a little fox. He stands on 2 legs, and he's like dressed like a little, like an ace pilot. Like it's like a cartoon character. But on the cover, it's like this weird, what's that movie, The Dark Crystal?
Yeah.
That has like the kind of like the Jim Henson like puppet factory thing. It's got like this like puppet model of Fox on the front, and it's really kind of creepy and goofy looking. And I feel like the instruction manual would have like all the other animal characters
Ew.
on it with like the weird like puppet things, because that's also like kind of what inspired Miyamoto with the designs of the characters, is like that kind of puppetry, which is interesting. I don't know.
It's just kind of goofy. It's like Chuck E. Cheese almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it looks like an animatronic.
I don't know, man. It's a great game that is now available on the Nintendo Online SNES collection. So if you haven't downloaded that yet, it's under on the eShop. There's a special tab you have to go to on the left. It's like online or special offers or something like that. But the collection is available for download now, and Star Fox is waiting to be played.
Mm-hmm. It is. I'd say maybe the last addendum to make is the other elephant in the room is that it's the Super Nintendo running 3D. It runs at like maybe 10 frames per second.
Yeah.
It kind of chugs.
There's a sprite for each of those 3D models.
Exactly, and it's rendering those in real time. It's pushing the little Super Nintendo to its limits. Which is, I mean, if you can get past like the visuals, which are super stylistic, but they do look dated. Mm-hmm. It can be a little hard to adjust like your eyes to playing it. But as far as like game design and level design goes, it's very high quality. If you can get past like the aesthetic hangups, it's super worth playing.
And actually, I would like to add one more little addendum in that it is one of like the few good Star Fox games at this point in history. So play it.
How dare you?
Do you really? Is it a quality series overall?
It's
made brilliant contributions to the Super Smash Bros. Series by way of Corneria and soundtracks and etc. But characters.
Yeah, the series has had kind of a bumpy road since it started. But yeah, that's a good point. Also, yet another epilogue addendum. It has an unreleased direct sequel called Star Fox 2 on the Super Nintendo that went unreleased at the time. Do you remember this news story from like a few years ago? So the Super Nintendo Classic that Nintendo released, the like standalone Super Nintendo like little the Super Nintendo Mini, I guess, Classic, I forget what it's called, like the standalone like plastic console thing that has like games loaded on it. It has Star Fox 2 on it.
Wow.
Star Fox 2 was like an unreleased game for decades. Yeah, like the ROM was being passed around online. Like people would like translate it and like you could play it on like an emulator on your computer. But like Nintendo officially released Star Fox 2, which is pretty much, I mean, it's a sequel. It's a better, more well executed, beefed up version of the original. It's still for the Super Nintendo. It's still like the whole pseudo 3D thing. But yeah, they released it on the Super Nintendo Mini, the Super Nintendo Classic. So now there's like an official way to play it, if you so desire. Yeah.
I did not know that. Well, and I'm like almost proud of Nintendo for being open with a, secret.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like one of those Mother 3 debacles.
Right, that they just lock away in a bunker somewhere and never let the public see again.
Put in the Disney vault.
Next to Walt's head. Well, dang, now we got to get a Super NES Classic Edition. Dang.
Yeah, we'll bring back Star Fox 2 for a gym maybe someday.
All right. I think that kind of covers our NintenGem of the week. That is Star Fox added to the NintenGem Hall of Fame. Woohoo!
Yes. Put it on the shelf.
That's right.
Lock it in the Disney vault, and we'll look at it from afar.
Yes, sir. And Connor, I would like to thank you for filling in this week. You've done a great job, and
yes,
really appreciate you hanging out. Do you have anything to say to the crowd?
I appreciate you having me on. As always, it's always super fun. Thanks for listening, everybody. I love you so much. Get good rest, drink water, eat 3 square meals, and brush your teeth twice a day.
You heard it here first, folks. Do those things, and you will live to be wise, old, and happy. Check us out on Facebook. We post what we're playing. We keep up to date there pretty well. Subscribe to us on iTunes and Spotify. If you haven't, please contact us. Let us know what's going on with you. We would love to get to know you more. But alright guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been NintenGems. My name is Braydon, And that's Connor over there. We will see you next time.